What if racism is like the ultimate sort of trick on us? Because we all know that, like, you put a bunch of little kids together, black, white, Chinese, Japanese, Americanese, look at these, doesn't matter. And the kids are going to play like it's no big deal. We know that. We all know that racism is sort of this thing that's taught. So what if it's like, I know I'm sort of, you'll see why I'm jumping back and forth, but MK Ultra, to me, the greatest trick MK Ultra ever did was convincing us that MK Ultra went away. Yeah. We figured out how to mind control people and get them to do things like assassinate Bobby Kennedy and, you know, Sirhan, for all you that aren't aware of. It's a good one. We should look that up. You know, they figured out how to get it all. That's just like weather control. You know, in 59, Disney, in collaboration with the United States military, put out Eyes to the Skies, Eyes to Space, Eyes to Outer Space, a documentary. It's on YouTube. You can find it really easily. And they brag about how in the near future they'll be using aerosols from jets and mini HARP facilities stationed all over the coast to manipulate weather as they so choose. And so you're left with a few options. They either A, figured it out and they use it. B, they figured it out, but they shelved it. Or C, they couldn't figure it out and either they quit or they're still doing it, but they can't figure it out. I'm going to go ahead and side with they figured it out and they just don't tell us about it. Right? So, just like how they made this video back then bragging about what they could do, I don't believe they just let the technology go. And the thing with MK Ultra is the same thing. They didn't figure MK Ultra out. They didn't figure everything out. Like Sirhan is clearly an MK Ultra patsy. Oh, look at this person's got an Israeli flag on their fucking car. Ah, piece of shit. What's up, Estella? How are you? So just like that tech, I don't think MK Ultra, they figured it out. They got it all down. Sirhan worked very, very well. Killed Bobby Kennedy and they were able to Rajveer Benoit or Barwar. Rajir Bawar. How are you, my man? I love that. I love foreign people's names. You guys have such cool names. Not stupid, like John, David, Mike. That's dumb. Your name is Rajveer. That's fucking sweet. Yo, my name's Rajveer, bitch. Get it right. Doesn't matter how I spell it. That's fantastic. Bro, where are you going? Says the Leper King. I'm going home, bro. Bro. You should count how many times I say bro in this. You'll be surprised. Bro. But the whole idea of MK Ultra, I think they stand with Israel. Fuck you. Asshole. Such a piece of shit. Anyway, MK Ultra got us to believe that they got rid of MK Ultra. I mean, think about it. Their whole thing is mind control. Do we honestly believe the government became super successful at mind control and just stopped doing it? Does anybody believe that? Does that even seem like it would, like, does that make sense? Why? What would be the reason to stop doing it? Yeah, the people sort of have an idea that we do it. Does that, why would that still mean to stop doing it? Bro has internal conflict. Yep, that's what it must be. I have internal conflict. Here we go. More of the stupidity to try to stop people from talking about it. Viewers. At the exact same time, 12 people were like, fuck this guy. Like, that happens. That happens at the exact same time. Anyway, we're going to look it up when I get home, but to think that MK Ultra disappeared, that they sunk all this money into it, they got really, really good at it, and then they just were like, fuck that. We need to let that go. I want to look into it. I want to look at what the official narrative is. Now, come on, Ching Chongs. You know I don't speak that Ching Chong. I can't even read what the hell you're writing. It looks like, isn't that Aramaic? Bro saw something that nobody didn't. Bro saw something that nobody didn't. What? What? I'm trying to make that one make. Bro saw something that nobody didn't. So, everybody saw it? Are you saying I saw something that everybody saw? Is that what you're trying to say? It's always frustrating to be smart and try to make sense of stupid. It's really hard to do. Like, that guy thought that sentence made sense. And I that's interesting. Oy vey. Pam, good morning. It's always good to see Pam. I love seeing Pam here. I'm trying to get somebody to come in. So I've been having this conversation about racism. It's really interesting. So where I grew up is called Northville, right? And Northville is WASP capital. Like it's this yuppie Jewish old money. You know, it was such a weird place to grow up. And so I grew up around a lot of these people that were like that. Very, very entitled white kids who, you know, think that they're rich when their parents are, and, you know, shit like that. And so the girl I've been talking to, she posts some Trump support shit, and but by talking to, I'm not saying talking to in the younger kids way. I'm not just talking, not talking, you know. But so her and I are. She's this like entitled white girl she's really cute. So she has a completely delusional perspective of the way the world works. And then this other doofus, like, she was a year or two younger than me, and he was a year older, maybe a year or two older. This other doofus, who was like one of those king dicks, right? Thought he was the shit, you know, blonde hair, blue-eyed kid, you know, just given the world, and then thought it's all his because of it. See, I always think it's strange how I get these idiots that come in and say these things, but it's like, again, just tell me what I'm wrong about. Instead of you pointing to the fact that you can't debunk anything I say, tell me what I'm wrong about instead. That would be a much better thing to do. But her and I, she's posting about Trump bullshit, and so I chime in, and this Greg doofus chimes in, and he's saying, black people have all, like, anytime, it's crazy how anytime a person of color points out racism, white people who claim to not be racist will be like, oh yeah, there you go, playing that victim card. They love to act like racism isn't a thing. Like racism and ignorance isn't the backbone of the Trump presidency. It's literally like that's his shit. Without racism, Trump would everybody just laugh at him. And so I look at racism totally differently than most people. I think one of the major causes of racism, one of the major reasons for racism, is the big black dick myth. If it weren't for the myth of the big black dick, I don't think racism would be nearly as strong as it is. Because in our society, white people basically dominate. There's no position in this world or in our country where white people fear black people. Black people don't have control of the weaponry. Black people don't have access to the schools, to the groceries, all that shit. The only time that black people have an advantage over white people, at least in the perceived way, is in the bedroom. Right? The one thing the white guy can't buy his way out of is the fact that the big black gorilla can come in and fuck the shit out of her in a way that you could never do. And because of that tremendous insecurity that comes from that, I know females like to believe that white people don't care, or that men don't care about that kind of thing. But we do. Even the average guy cares about his girl. The one thing that'll make any white guy more insecure than anything else is if you tell him what, sweetheart? What's gonna freak the white guy out more than anything if he asks you?
Have you ever been with a black dude?
There you go. Have you ever been with a black guy? All the white girls watching, all the females watching. If I'm wrong, tell me. I'm sure you've experienced this more than once. I definitely do not have any sort of judgment. I think women should be just as promiscuous as men. I think there's no slut shaming, none of that shit. I don't do that shit at all. I don't care. My wife used to be a prostitute, literal prostitute, and I married her. I got her off the streets. She was hanging out, selling blowjobs for fucking $5 one day. And what are you talking about?
I love you.
Oh, you do. You're right, and I'm 66. Rachel Maddow doesn't even sound this dumb. Wow, you are exactly why we can't go left. Why are you such a fool? Yep, he's married to a no moral compass here. Yep, Joe Martin has so much to say. Joe Martin's not gonna actually address anything being said, but I should go left. This guy, they tell him, we're gonna slap you with the left hand or slap you with the right, and Joe picks one. He's not smart enough to think, hey, I'm not gonna support either side of it, especially either side that supports Israel. Because Israel is the bad guy. So any side that supports Israel is the bad guy. Okay? You all right there, Joe? With my no moral compass. But the whole, and of course, I would imagine Joe's a white guy, wouldn't you? He's getting mad about the things that I'm saying. Because that's the reality. What else would cause racism? What else would cause, a group of people to try their best to belittle another group of people and make them feel inferior? Make them feel ugly, make them feel stupid. Do everything you can. Take their food away. Take their education away. Take their safety away. Fill them with drugs. What's going to make you do that to somebody? You fear them. You know, and racism is fear. That's all it is. From Bama. What's up, Bama? Racism is fear. White guys fear black people. They fear black. They love black women. They want to fuck black women, but they assume black women have been with black guys, and that just makes them off limits. And the thing is, it's a myth. Not all black guys have a big black dick. It's not what you think. Of course, the ones that you've seen do porn and shit because those are the porn guys. What are you thinking? Can you imagine how, like, can you imagine the complex you would have if you were a black guy with a small penis? That would be just, that's a type of hell that I don't want to wish on people. That guy has had, especially if he's like good looking. So white chicks are always throwing themselves at him to, like, you know, they want to make their dad mad. This is going to be their make their dad mad black guy. And they're like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to go on the big black ride, the big black roller coaster. And then she's like, what? Tommy was bigger than this. Oh, Jesus. That's government, not white people. No, that's Jews. Jews are government. White people are the majority, the vast majority. And if racism, like, the only way racism can be eliminated is if white people start acknowledging it. That's the only way anything happens. White people make up 69% of population, or just 55% if you take out those with Hispanic backgrounds who claim to be white. Black people make up 13% of the population. It don't matter. They just don't matter. Sorry. 13%, like, just, if somebody told you there's a 13% chance it's going to rain today, would you dress up? Would you take a raincoat and galoshes and all that shit? What if it was a 13% chance it wasn't going to rain? You'd assume it was going to rain all fucking day, wouldn't you? You know, 13% doesn't do shit. So if you look at the idea that like the only way anything changes is when white people get behind it. The only way racism ever gets fixed is if white people start acknowledging it. Start changing things. You know, you always hear people, black people are just as racist. No, black people aren't racist. Black people are prejudiced. They aren't racist. Racist is a term used like that. That's a broad term. Racism is the ability to affect a culture. You decide where the schools are, how much money goes into the schools. You decide how many grocery stores they get. You decide how much money goes into the police. That's racism. Liquor stores and shit like that.
Churches.
Prejudice is the result of racism. If white people really want black prejudice, Mexican prejudice, all that shit to stop towards them, they don't like that prejudice that they receive sometimes. Oh, how dare you? Maybe try to be more understanding. Eliminate white racism and we get rid of the prejudice. But again, that's accountability, right? That's that thing people don't like. And so when we're talking about racism, I think one of the like, if you look at the 90s and you look at what the Jews did to the using the mediums they had just sort of figured out, they had really started to master. You know, the 80s and the 90s are sort of the culmination of the entertainment weapon getting figured out. You know, they were able to keep everything separate for such a long time. You know, people like white people, white and black people. There are white bands that black people have no idea who they are. And they're like reasonably famous white bands, and you're like, whoa, you don't know who these guys are? You never heard this song before? No. Because there was a really distinct line that went through, between what black people were shown and what white people were shown. And it was in the late 80s you really saw the culmination of it. And it's hard to really talk about without going all the way back. But I'm not trying to do that necessarily, I guess. I don't know. This is where MK Ultra comes in, right? Because that's what I was going to do. Let's look up MK Ultra before we go any further down the Guy Williams rabbit hole. I know, I was thinking of that, but I want to do this first. MK Ultra, MK Ultra, MK Ultra. Let's look MK Ultra up. All right. Project MK Ultra was a human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, to develop procedures and identify drugs that can be used during interrogations to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. Oh, I wouldn't say that's all they did. The term MK Ultra is a CIA cryptonym. MK is an arbitrary prefix standing for the Office of Technical Service, and Ultra is an arbitrary word out of a dictionary to denominate this project. So it means nothing. This is the proposal. It is proposed to continue research on problems critical to the clarification of the fundamental aspects of the stimulus-response relationship in biological systems. Studies will be conducted utilizing chronic alcohol. See, just before you go, it's hard to read. Chronic is animal preparations with permanent septal electrodes. Investigations will be conducted utilizing chronic electrode preparation coupled with selective classical types of conditioning. Studies will be conducted on the geography of the brain in selected species of animals to determine the locus in which stimulations will produce specific reactions. A careful literature I don't know what that word is. Especially Russia literature of foreign research in this area will be conducted. A special survey. Okay. That's a declassified document, I guess. Project MK Ultra began in 1953 and was halted in 1973. Sure it was. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functions, such as the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals without the subject's consent. See, I've done my fair share of LSD, right? And I've always heard this association with LSD, but I don't, how could that work? How, especially high doses of LSD. High doses of LSD are going to make you like you're not going to be a functioning. I don't understand.
I was never that Jello type. I was always let's go. I don't know. It affects people differently. Like, you know, Pete didn't like acid. He took even a little bit. That's what he would be like. But then he took mushrooms, and he was all energetic. So I think it really has a lot to do with body chemistry.
Whatever. It's still high doses of LSD are not going to make you susceptible. You're not going to be susceptible and be like, "Hey, why don't we go kill this person?" And you go, "Oh yeah, let's go," and then you're not going to remember it.
No.
Shit like that. Like that's not how that works. And other chemicals without the subject's consent. Additionally, other methods beyond chemical compounds were used, including electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture. The government, the United States government, did this to people. Project MK Ultra was preceded by Project Artichoke. I've never heard of Project Artichoke before. Well, wait a minute. Let's go here. Project Artichoke, also referred to as Operation Artichoke, was a project developed and enacted by the United States Central Intelligence Agency for purposes of researching methods of interrogation. Project Artichoke was succeeded by Project MKUltra, which began in 1953. Initially known as Project Bluebird, I've heard of Project Bluebird. Artichoke officially arose on August 20th, 1951, and was operated by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. The primary goal of Project Artichoke was to determine whether a person could be involuntarily made to perform an act of attempted assassination. The project also studied the effects of mind control and hypnosis, forced addiction to and subsequent withdrawal from morphine and other chemicals, including LSD, to produce amnesia and other valuable or vulnerable states in a victim. So they fried your brain so much you had amnesia?
On purpose.
Project Artichoke was a mind control program that gathered information together with the intelligence divisions of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and FBI. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that asked, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation?
Who the fuck comes up with that?
Who?
That is fucking sinister.
Who indeed?
Disgusting.
Who indeed? I mean, you know the answer. You know that answer. When you look at, I can't say this enough. Look at how we treat cows. Okay? Do you think that we are beyond doing psychological things to cows? Like, I mean, we don't even think about the psychological aspects of it because we have told ourselves that cows are just like plants that grow and they're just sort of harvested. But the reality is, like,
everything has feelings.
Well, I mean, if you go to try to take a baby cow from a mother cow or a group of cows, those cows will attack you. They know that the baby is vulnerable. They know that you have sinister motives, and they will put themselves on the line to protect their young. Well, that's the definition of self-preservation. Right? To make sure the young, put the older on the line so the young can live longer, because the young will live longer. So they have more chances of producing more people. So we save the young, right? But when the way that we see cows, we go, no, those are just like plants, right? You just march them into the under the conveyor belt where they get pulled into the thing comes down and it's a screw. They don't even they have to use a screw because it's more efficient. You can't just use something that like a shotgun or something that's disposable. So the screw, it goes up to the back of the neck, right where their spinal cord and their skull come together, and it like it comes out. And they say it's instant death, but then it's like it comes under the thing. The clamp comes in and it holds the cow steady. The cow's too stupid to know what's going on. The thing comes, hits them, and then the other thing pushes them off into the thing, and then it's just disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. But you know what's the better way? Kosher. The way the Jews do it is much better, because the Jews do it the humane way. Kosher, halal, all of those special ways of doing things. You know what it is, right? You know what kosher means, right? So they take the cow, and so the whole factory has to be blessed by the rabbi, and then none of us dirty goyim are allowed to touch any of the equipment that's used, the blades, the ropes, anything like that. And so they sterilize everything to get it goyim free. They get this poor cow, they wrap a rope around its feet, and they string it upside down. Now, the logic is stupid, but they say it's more humane by doing that and then slitting the thing's throat and letting it bleed out slowly. That's the more humane way to kill a cow, according to the Jews and the kosher blah 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 bullshit. Now, if the cow happens to have a heart attack before it bleeds out, well, it's no good anymore. You can't. It has to be bled out. Like they're just insane. You're right. Manchester United will get back. They just need to change the coach. That's how you spell coach? Wow, that's fantastic. But it's if you look at that and you think, okay, we eat every aspect of the cow we can. A lot of you would be like, ew, head cheese. Ew, I'm not going to eat the brains. That's gross. I only eat the butt. I only like the shoulders. Oh, I'm not eating dogs. Ew, that's gross. The Chinese eat dogs and cats. Ew. No, you should only eat pigs and chickens and cows and alligators and, bison and deer and, all those are cool. Those are good. Like the insanity in thinking that one animal is an okay animal to eat, but other ones aren't. But again, look at the cow. We skin the cow. We wear its skin as like a belts. We will wear leather jackets, leather pants. People will wear all leather. They'll coat themselves in cow while they eat some cow. And they're using the ground up hooves for whatever, and they're using the cow teeth, and the bones get ground up to make this or that's how we humans see the lower life form. So what happens when there's another form of human that sees us the same way that we see cows? They see us as no different than cows, than cats, than dogs, than tables, than chairs. It's everything that's not them is Goyim. And if I'm wrong, you tell me. You tell me. People get mad at what I say because what I say implies some really awful shit. And I get it. But I'm not making any of this up. The idea of us being Goyim, the Gentiles are going, they look at us the same way we look at cows. So when you say, how can anybody think to come up with a program like that where they could do that to somebody else? I know it was a long answer, but that's the answer. And if I'm wrong, you tell me. You tell me. Mind control, Air Navy in the scope, January 52, and we get Project Artichoke was the Central Intelligence Agency's code name for carrying out in-house and overseas experiments using LSD, hypnosis, and total isolation as forms of psychological harassment for special interrogations on human subjects. Who? Who are the people that went through all that? I would imagine it's thousands of people. Did so many of them not survive? Like, what happened? Where are those people in their stories?
Everyone will know what you really are.
It must be one of those roaches. Let's see. At first, agents used cocaine, marijuana, heroin, peyote, and mescaline, but they increasingly saw LSD as the most promising drug. They tried using natural cocaine, natural marijuana, natural heroin, natural peyote, and natural mescaline. But the one that worked the best was synthetic LSD. Gosh, that's interesting.
There is no natural LSD. It was created in a. It doesn't grow in a plant.
Right. All these other ones are plants. Mescaline can come from like toads and shit.
Not like a far cry from what we know.
Mescaline is a naturally occurring psychedelic proto-alkaloid of the substituted phenylethylamine class, known for its hallucinogenic effects comparable to those of LSD and psilocybin. It binds blah blah blah. Drug class legal formula biological. I can't go anywhere. It occurs in cacti. Oh.
I'll bring them up. 32.
What do you forget?
It's gym shoes.
Huh? No? No, I don't. I'm reading.
Please. I gotta go to the dogs in a minute.
But I'm reading. Such a bitch.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh no, I'll go. You guys are just gonna have to stick with me because I'm not gonna be able to do my video as I want to do it and inform you people, but this is what we have to do. No?
Well, I forgot my gym shoes.
At least he wasn't in trouble.
Right.
So it's from cacti. I went on an acid trip and never came back. Yep, that's what it is. So we're gonna have to jump a little bit for this, but so we look and we say, okay, look what was done with you kind of have to understand that there's two Hollywoods, right? There's East Coast Hollywood and there's West Coast Hollywood. East Coast Hollywood is where we get the news, the government, that whole charade, that whole aspect of control is on the East Coast. And it's the financial, all of that. The other side, West Coast Hollywood, is where you get the entertainment side of things. And the entertainment side of things is definitely educational. It's how they influence the social aspects of society. It's how they control, our basic human nature. And so when you start to I challenge you, man, try to figure out where Hollywood came from. If you think about it, like the story of Hollywood, how Hollywood came to be, that should be one of those weird stories that we all just kind of know, because Hollywood is such a prominent thing, like, and it's new. It's not like Rome. It's not like any of these old cities, old whatever, at least according to the narrative. You know, even New York. New York is supposedly super old compared to Hollywood. Hollywood was basically sort of, it was nothing, you know, that's what they'll tell us, is that it was next to nothing. How these 4 or 5 Jewish people, Jewish men, immigrated from the same 400-mile radius little space in Germany or whatever. Somehow they came across the Atlantic, came in through New York, you know, made their way across the country. They this unproven, unknown medium that was television and cameras and shit like that. They saw the future. They created they went from where they were to Hollywood, and somehow they were able to buy up all the most premium real estate and build production studios and all that before it was even a proven medium. They just somehow did it. And then, you know, I mean, there's the whole theaters, I forgot what the Galaxy Theater, I don't remember what they're called, but they used to be theaters that were everywhere, and nobody really knows, like, well, how the fuck did they all get there? Why were they all built? Who built them? Like, at the time, like when you're talking about, when you try to look at the history of media, it really is a lot more convoluted than you would think. You would think it would be an easy thing to just sort of draw the lines back to this way and that and make it all make sense, but it just doesn't work that way. So in the early 1900s, just like it is now, I mean, I think the 100-year cycle thing is kind of scary when you look at what's happening. But the early 1900s, the people that flocked to Hollywood were gay. The people that wanted to put on costumes and put on makeup and all that shit and pretend to be someone else, a lot of those people were gay, both men and women. And Hollywood was just full of gay, like it was all gay people everywhere. It was like a refuge. It was like a safe haven. And it was also, during Prohibition, so they had launched Prohibition, and the Jews were the ones that controlled the alcohol distribution. The alcohol came through Michigan, came through Detroit, and then was distributed throughout the country. And the Jews were, the Purple Gang were who controlled that distribution. It wasn't Al Capone, it wasn't, you know, this, that. And again, you have to look at things like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The massacre, I think there was like 7 gangsters were killed or something like that. Some crazy small number. No massacre at all. But that's life used to be a lot more precious back then. And they didn't like, if people died, it was a big deal. And so the Jews are trying to cover up the fact that the Purple Gang is that they are controlling the illegal alcohol distribution. And, you know, they also control the laws. They also they control every aspect of it. They create the idea of the Italian mobster. That's where the Italian gangster, the Godfather, that whole thing is a Jew creation. Don't listen to this fool, says Tom Holland. Right, because I guarantee Tom Holland has looked all this stuff up recently and knows exactly what I'm talking about and knows exactly how I'm lying. And I mean, come on, this is stupid. Instead of telling people not to listen, why don't you tell people what I'm wrong about? Other than because you can't. But that whole, encouraging people not to watch somebody, that's a pretty standard, stupid sort of trick. Anyway, so in the 30s, well, so they create this Robin Hood character that is the Italian mobster, and the gangster becomes too popular. They fucked up and gave the Italian gangster, too much power. They told him, hey, you guys can have these neighborhoods here in New York. Just keep the drugs and shit out of the Jewish neighborhoods and everything will be okay. Sell it to the blacks all you want. Like, that was all by plan. But accidentally gave the Italian mobster too much power and too much favor. And people saw the Italian gangster as a Robin Hood character, robbing from the rich, evil government and giving back to the people. And that a lot of that had to do with the movies that were being made at the time. So along with a bunch of other shit, the government, East Coast Hollywood, institutes something called the production codes. And it's this new set of laws, this new set of rules that Hollywood has to go by. One of those rules is that gay people aren't allowed to be in Hollywood anymore. You can't be gay and be used as an actor. So that's where the term beard comes from. Because all these rich Jew Hollywood people weren't about to give up their cash cows. So they married the gay men and the gay women together. That's why so many of the golden age of Hollywood actors who, in all honesty, looking back on it, it's pretty clear they were gay guys. But they all had multiple wives and all that shit because they couldn't pull off that ruse very well. You hear these stories of these, they would keep their names and they would have separate houses and all that. So yeah, because they weren't actually together. It was just a ruse to trick the government who didn't want people to be gay, right? So hang on a second. So the production codes, they don't want gays, no gays allowed, and they also say that the cops can never be made to look bad. The cops always have to come out on top, and the gangsters are never allowed to win. It's one of their laws. At the same time, this is when Hollywood is producing, this is when Shirley Temple's first movie, Baby Burlesque, is produced, where she is a 4-year-old little girl pretending to be a burlesque dancer. And so damn shit. These production codes are instituted, and
This is ridiculous. God damn it.
Hello.
Thank you
Shoes
so
for Nathan.
much.
Thank you.
Your feet are getting big.
Oh, yeah, every day. So the production codes come into play, and this is when also you get shit like the Little Rascals, and at the same time, where they're trying to crack down on the evils of gay and the bad guys winning and all that. Suddenly, this obsession with children and adults hanging out and being funny, and the children being the subject of the shows, this becomes like a major focus. You know, there are so many shows, copycat Little Rascal shows, and so many Shirley Temple movies, and all these things that come out. And so they really do a good job at this point of producing materials. This is where they also probably got rid of a lot of the goyim, which is why you get these stages in Hollywood where the creativity goes away, and then you just get these copycat shows. So you'll have your brilliant genius shows that come out that change the way things are done, and then you'll have just tons of copycats made because this made some money. And so Hollywood progresses, and they're literally figuring it out. Like, this is all technology that they're just trying to figure out. They found all this technology. They didn't create this technology. They found it. And they're just trying to figure out how to make it work and make it all work to their advantage and manipulate things. And so we get to the McCarthy age. We get to the McCarthy time when because of the success of World War I and World War II and World War I was so tragic. You had so many people that came back and were just so super fucked up, and the system wasn't there for them. They called them shell shock, and they just let them rot out in their fucking attics and shit, in their parents' bedrooms, or in their childhood room at their parents' house and shit. Because back then they were really, when they controlled all of the media, when there wasn't, you couldn't just go on your Facebook and instead of you watching the programming, CBS Morning News, whatever it is, you're sitting here watching this dumbass guy on YouTube or Facebook or wherever it may be, who's breaking the narrative. Doesn't matter how many trolls come in here and say stupid things. All the trolls do is further my point. If I was wrong about any of these things, these guys that are here trying to make me look bad would absolutely zero in on anything I was getting wrong and beat it to death and feed that full horse until it exploded. Right? So if they could point out something, they would. Right? This guy is looking for attention. Yep, see? Again, it's always shoot the messenger, never shoot the message. Never talk about what I'm saying that's wrong. You're mad because what I'm saying bothers you, but you're not smart enough to actually debunk anything. So you're like, you're just a child sort of making a noise because you're upset. It's really interesting how this works. But so you have this situation where, I mean, when you look at the media machine and how they had started to really figure things out back then, you have to remember, like people in this generation, even my generation, I can barely remember it, but I can remember when channels would shut off, when they would go, boo, and the rainbow screen would show up, and you know, programming had stopped for the day. I can still remember that. But that's a concept that you know, even a generation younger than me doesn't remember. And that's how the majority of the people that run the show now, that's how they grew up, in that narrative where the TV shut off at night, which meant you weren't supposed to watch it anymore. You know, they stopped the programming. Like, it's crazy to think that they didn't think people would watch TV all night. That is just so fucking weird. I'm mad because you're annoying. So some random person making a video that annoys you makes you mad? Okay, buddy. You sound like the winner in this conversation. So if you're mad and or annoyed, why don't you just debunk what I'm saying? Why don't you try to make me look stupid instead of making yourself look like a dumb child? It's weird. I'm mad because I came here and I wanted you to do something different. Talking about something that I don't want you to talk. I want you to talk about, I like Trump. Why do you like Trump, little boy? I don't know why I like Trump. I do. Orange is my favorite color. I'm just glad I'm not you. Right. You're glad you're not the guy making the video. You're glad you're the guy watching that video. Gotcha, buddy. Gotcha. It's amazing that people actually think these things up. It's not like it just fell out of his mouth and he said something stupid. He literally types these things out thinking, that's going to get him in. That's going to get him in. Like, it's just amazing. Instead of typing anything about what I'm wrong about, he wants to get into a pissing contest where he's going to lose. Like, it's so stupid. It just... I know I experience it every day. It's just amazing. It's amazing. But anyway, they after World War I and World War II, like a lot of women during those times, women really excelled. And there were so many people that were the children of these basically single parent households where the man went off for a long period of time, 4 or 5 years. The first 4 or 5 years, like the woman had the kid while the guy was away and shit. That was the romantic thing to do because that's what the movies told you to do. The movies told women that what they should do is run out and get pregnant by a guy that's going off to war. That's the honorable thing to do. So that they can then be a single, a single woman trying to raise a kid in an environment that doesn't respect women, doesn't look after women. But this is the romantic thing to do at 17, 18 years old. Throw your whole fucking life away like that. Like, it's just crazy how, and so many of those movies existed. So many of those movies existed. And people just don't want to, they don't want to address, like, they talk about our grandparents and our parents. Those were the good old days. No. The whole idea of MAGA, Make America, when? What are you talking about with your dumb racist slogan? Racist, sexist, everythingist slogan. What does that have to do, period? What does that have to, period, do with modern day? What the fuck are you even talking about? What does the way that the people that control our society today, how they grew up, what does that have to do with modern society? I don't know if I have to explain that, do I?
I wouldn't do that.
But they had created this place where, like, it was actually really, really great. Because back then, like when you think about it, so many of your grandparents made less in their lifetime working than most of us make in like 5 years today. You know, they were making, you know, $2, $3, $4 an hour, and they were atop of the fucking, you know, when Ford's claim to fame was being the first person to offer a $5 workday. And that was people could live a really great life like that. You know, you could have a nice house. You could build one of these houses that we all live in today. You had cars or a car. Your kids went to college, you know, you had a pension plan so you could retire, and like it was when the people of today get down on the people of today, or the people of yesterday get down on the people of today, it's like they don't even realize it.
They have no idea how hard it is.
I was talking to my father-in-law about it while we were trick-or-treating. And I was like, I said it to him. You realize, like, a guy working at a greenhouse isn't building one of these houses that exist here today, right? You understand that's not how that works. Like, you know, you worked really, really hard for everything you have, no doubt. But nobody in your position today is living the life that you were able to provide. He provided you guys with a really good life. You went on vacations, not all the time, but you did. You lived in a really nice place, in a nice neighborhood with high taxes and all that kind of shit. Yeah, 100 years ago, yeah, then gas was 20 cents a gallon. Right. Gas was less than 20 cents a gallon. But the people that are in charge of what all the things cost and the values and all that, that's the Jews. And it's all by design. It's not like the dollar just naturally got weaker. It's just what happens. But this system that we live in, that was sort of created in that environment, it can't exist like that anymore. We have to address these obvious, you know, disparities in the narrative. And I guess that is a different argument, but that's what I'm saying. So the people from back in those days, they were opposed to the war. When Vietnam started to come around, and television was a big thing, and things were starting to be televised, it was the intellectual that didn't want Vietnam. This is where this is where MK Ultra comes in. Because MK Ultra, like, what people don't understand is the television is MK Ultra. The television flicker is a fucking thing. They run an invisible flicker that's not perceptible to the human eye. But like anytime you record the TV, especially back in the early days, it would always have that line that would run down it. Because it's the flicker, it's getting picked up by the camera. And that they do that on purpose. They figured out just how many times that flicker has to flash to not be perceived, but also hypnotize us. I mean, there's the old sign-off video, because they would, you know, the television programming for today has ended. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. And then they would play the national anthem. It's been shown that the words at the bottom of that picture say things like obey. As they fade away, they actually say words like obey and the government is king, and like all this stuff is real. And if you think they were doing it 100 years ago, and you don't think they're doing it now and doing it much better now, you're foolish. And that was the point of all this. So we had figured out that mescaline comes from cacti.
Is it this? Does it resemble the street mescaline? Is my thing. Like
I'm sure it
might
does.
derive. You know,
Well, I mean, I'm sure street mescaline is this. I'm sure that's where we get it from. It's they distill it from whatever cacti they can and then put it on blotter or whatever, microdots. But they increasingly saw the subjects who left this project were fogged with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the experience. In 1952, unknowing CIA agents were secretly drugged and drugged to determine the drug's effects on unsuspecting people. One record states that an agent was kept on LSD for 77 days. So that's where like they do that shit a lot, where they say that like LSD will destroy your brain, LSD will make you go crazy, LSD will get you stuck in trips, LSD, all those crazy things that you think about when you take that and might freak you out, or all the stereotypes that people have that don't do drugs. It comes from shit like this, where they dose somebody for 77 days and his fucking brain cracks, and they go, see, if you do LSD, it'll crack your brain, while negating the mention that it was for 77 days.
at high doses.
At extremely high doses that are probably more pure than you can even imagine. You talk racism while putting down Jewish people at the same time, because Jews aren't a race, you dumbass. Thank you for pointing it out. Jews are a race, you dumb. Jews aren't a race, you dumbass. Thank you for pointing it out. Yeah. Jews aren't a race, you dumbass. Thank you for pointing it out. Jews aren't a race, you dumbass. Thank you for pointing it out. Hey, that's my new song. You guys like it? Dude, you're warped. I'm warped, not the government that does these things. Artichoke researched the potential of dengue fever, dengue fever, dengue fever, and other diseases. A classified artichoke memo read, "Not all viruses have to be lethal. The objective includes those that act as short-term and long-term incapacitating agents." Not all viruses have to be lethal, meaning they control what viruses are. Viruses are man-made. They're not a naturally occurring thing. The CIA disputed which department would take over the operation. Finally, it was decided that an agent from the CIA research staff, former U.S. Army Brigadier General Paul F. Gaynor, would oversee it. The CIA sought to establish control over what it perceived as the weaker and less intelligent segments of society, or for potential agents, defectors, refugees, prisoners of war, and others. A CIA report states that if hypnosis succeeded, assassins could be created to assassinate, quote, a prominent redacted politician, or, if necessary, an American official. Gosh. That's kind of weird. Because, like, Sirhan and Bobby Kennedy and... Oh, never mind. The overseas operations took place in locations throughout Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines. Teams were assembled to manage these operations, and they were told to conduct the overseas bases operational experiments using an alien as a subject. An alien. Who do you think they're referring to as aliens? The sad thing is, there are tons of people that will find this and be like, see, there's proof of aliens. They were saying use an alien. They were talking about finding aliens over there, bro. Well, that's it. That's all I get. So that was Project Artichoke. So now we're back to Project MK Ultra. MK Ultra was preceded by Project Artichoke. It was organized through the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence and coordinated with the United States Army Biological Warfare's laboratories. The Office of Scientific Intelligence, OSI, also known as Scientific Intelligence Division, was a department of the Central Intelligence Agency. In 1963, it was incorporated into the Directorate of Science and Technology. Fictional uses of the name. The Office of Scientific Intelligence is the name for a fictional secret intelligence branch of the American government featured in the 1970s series The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. The acronym OSI, Office of Secret Intelligence, is used in the cartoon The Venture Brothers. The name is also used in The Puppet Masters. A variant name, the Department of Scientific Intelligence, DSI, aka The Shop, is used in Stephen King movies The Firestarter, The Golden Years, and The Lawnmower Man. Gee, that's strange. So, when I look up the Office of Scientific Intelligence, literally, the fictional uses of the name is a longer paragraph than the official use of the name. I don't know where the ball is. To the left, to the left.
It went to the edge of the trim bag and dropped down to the left. Across.
Bang Online today, stating that you were a guest at Stone Valley Motel on September 5th of this year. Did you?
I don't see it.
She's looking for it too. Kitty, where'd it go?
The court didn't hear you.
Get a job or something. You have much time on your hands. Yeah, I definitely do. Says the guy who's watching me learn and telling me I should stop learning.
You should stop learning. Yes.
Stop learning. Stop looking things up.
That was for school. You're not in school anymore.
Once you're an adult, you're just supposed to do what they say.
When I came back from my last tour, I was having a hard time.
I wish I could get the job where I got to be a troll. That'd be awesome.
I wonder what they pay.
Well,
not very much.
I would assume it's pretty well. To have to, sacrifice your morals and your sensibilities to try to interfere with the people that are trying to make the world a better place, because these trolls don't exist on on any of your witch pages, or even guys like your doofus Thai person. He's not getting the same shit I get. He's a truther, but he's not a threat. You just have to see it. Like, if you can explain it any other way, then by all means do. I've been live for 1 hour and 14 minutes, and this guy has been here basically the entire time, and he's telling me how stupid I am. Yet he's been watching me for over 1 hour. And this clearly isn't his first time here. There's also several of the same trolls that come every single day are here again to say the same kind of dumb nonsense, not debunk anything, not actually make me look stupid, essentially prove my point and help me, and yet they're here again. You tell me how that makes sense any other way. You really think that's just some dumb people doing that? For years? Sorry, doesn't work. You make it make sense and I'll listen, but until then, I've made it make sense. It makes sense. It's weird, and it's not something you hear very often, but if you look at the truther community, not very many are telling the truth that's necessary. Not very many are telling a truth they weren't told to tell. When you're like you're sharing the video. Buzz said we didn't go to the moon. He said we didn't go. Look, he said we didn't go. Buzz or Neil, whatever one it was, I don't know. And you don't bother to watch the actual 1.5-minute video just to make sure he did say that? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Only 6 viewers now, loser. Yeah. At least a few of them are the same dumb Israeli trolls that come here every day. I'm such a loser. I'm such a non-threat. I'm such a insert whatever you want, that these same Israeli trolls come to my feed and do their best to try to stifle it.
This year, bring out Lindor from the Lindt Master Chocolatier. Stuck at the DMV.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And they have to. They absolutely have to throttle my page. If they don't throttle my page, it goes out of control. When they don't put the brakes on, I get to 90 before they even know what's going on. A couple of videos ago, my feed got to 90 viewers plus twice. It got all the way up, got knocked down, and then climbed all the way back up. Are you telling me that on that day, just that day, I was really interesting to people, but every other day I'm not? How does that even make sense? I'm so interesting that multiple trolls come here every single day to get called pedophiles and get exposed, and yet normal people don't care about me talking about the trending topics, the number one story in the world right now, which is Israel. Yep, that all makes sense. I believe it. I believe it. The program engaged in illegal activities, including the use of U.S. and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects. MKUltra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions aside from the military, including colleges and universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. Jesus. This is your American government, guys. The CIA operated using front organizations, although some top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. Every time I hear about this stuff, it just reminds me of the mafia. The mafia is like, everything about the mafia is factioned off of the CIA, off the way the government works. The structure, the advancement, the secrecy. The CIA is full of I can't believe she got that. The CIA is full of secret handshakes and secret symbols and secret all that. They do all that shit. Why would they do all that shit if it wasn't for nefarious purposes? If you don't knock it down, you knocked it down. CIA operated using front organizations. Project MKUltra was revealed to the public in 1975 by the Church Committee, named after Senator Frank Church. It wasn't what you thought. Of the United States Congress and General Ford's United States President's Commission on CIA Activities within the United States, the Rockefeller Commission. Investigative efforts were hampered by CIA Director Richard Helms' order that all MKUltra files be destroyed in 1973. The Church Committee and Rockefeller Commission investigations relied on the sworn testimony of direct participants and on a small number of documents that survived Helms' order. So Helms was thrown in prison forever, right? Like, can you imagine if the FBI, CIA, whoever it is, was like, Angela, we're going to do an investigation into you, and you immediately shredded all of your documents. How well do you think that would go over? Hello?
Not very.
Not very. I was just asking. I just was wondering. She's barely paying attention. In 1977, a Freedom of Information Act uncovered a cache of 20,000 documents relating to MK Ultra, which led to Senate hearings. Some surviving information about MK Ultra was declassified in 2001.
Did you just pay with PayPal?
Origin of the project. See, the thing is, like, if they say, you know, the origin of this, the origin of MK Ultra. Well, if MK Ultra was based is just what it was called this time. Like if they just changed the names and shit, then you have to then try to find, you have to follow those clues back and back and back. You have to keep looking, and you know, this isn't just the origin of the whole idea altogether. This is just the origin of MK Ultra. During World War II, in the early 1940s, Nazi scientists working in the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Dachau conducted interrogation experiments on human subjects. Ooh. Now, see, it's funny. When you say that, it's like, oh, man, the Nazis were so bad. Oh, look at what they did. The Nazis, they conducted human experiments and yeah. But then it's like, hey, you know that we did that. This is what I'm reading. I'm reading about how the Americans did that. You understand? It's not the whole idea of Nazis and all that. It's just a myth. It's just a part of the play. You know, we're just the victims of it, the unwitting victims of it. They tell us about these wars and they push us into all this shit. This is what MK Ultra is. MK Ultra is about convincing us that you know, they say that it during the Civil War and in the South, only 1% of the population was actually rich enough to own slaves. Yet, of that, you know, when it came to the war, that 1% convinced all these dumb mountain people and all these white people that it was about their freedoms and them and this, that, and the other. And they didn't fight. They might have been named like generals and shit like that, but they just stayed way back. They didn't go into the fighting. They got all the dumb white hicks to do it. The Jewish plantation owners. I bet you if we really looked, a lot more of those plantations were owned by Jews than we think. But that's if you believe that narrative, which I really don't anymore. I'm sorry. All right. Substances such as barbiturates, morphine derivatives, and hallucinogens such as mescaline were employed in experiments conducted on Polish, Russian, Jewish, and other nationalities prisoners of war. They aimed to develop a truth serum, which would, in the words of one laboratory assistant to Dachau scientist Kurt Plotner, eliminate the will of the person examined. American historian Stephen Kinzer argues that the CIA project was a continuation of these earlier Nazi experiments, citing the numerous German scientists who were hired to work for the U.S. as part of Operation Paperclip. All comes back together. And see, the thing is, when you're reading about secret government programs that dealt in espionage, mind control, tricking the public, blah, 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 what makes you think the narrative you're reading is true? Are you complaining again? It's cringe listening to you. Then why are you here for another time? You just gave it away that you've been here before. So if I'm so bad, why would you come back? And man, the last thing you want to do is learn something. Who likes learning? Ew. Learning The official narrative, this is what you're supposed to know.
But he also didn't have any defensive wounds on his body. How would Sergeant Bly have been able to take a gun away from a trained soldier?
American interest in drug-related interrogation experiments began in 1943 when the Office of Strategic Services began developing a truth drug that would produce uninhibited truthfulness in an interrogated person. In 1947, the United States Navy initiated Project Chatter, an interrogation program which saw the first testing of LSD on human subjects. Never heard of Project Chatter. Let's check out Project Chatter. Project Chatter was a United States Navy program beginning in the fall of 1947, focusing on the identification and testing of drugs in interrogations and the recruitment of agents. Their search included laboratory experiments on both animal and human subjects. The program operated under the direction of Charles Savage of the Naval Medical Research Institute, whose name is red. I don't necessarily remember it offhand, but apparently I've clicked on him before. Bethesda, Maryland, from 1947 to 1953. The project was geared to identifying agents, both synthetic and natural, that were effective during interrogation, as well as testing possible treatments for depression. The project was centered on, but not restricted to, the use of anabasine, an alkaloid, scopolamine, and mescaline. Scopolamine, I don't know. It was the first U.S. government project in which lysergic acid dithilamide, LSD 25, was used on human subjects. Why don't you work on yourself instead of complaining about the things you have no control of? Change your mindset. So, yet again, some random person is bothered by the fact that I'm looking into government stuff. I'm learning, I'm bettering myself by reading and learning about the history of things. They're mad about that, and they suggest that I do a much more selfish thing by just working on myself, man. Why don't you just work on yourself? You have to ask yourself, what random person is going to be so bothered by what I'm doing right now that they would say something stupid like that? All the fucking videos, all the dumb shit that's available on YouTube. Are you just the YouTube police? Do you just go from video to video telling people that what they should do with their lives? Hey, buddy. Hey, man. I know you're trying to do your best to see how you can, solve those Rubik's Cubes even faster, but are you working on yourself, brother? Do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Like, do you understand how stupid you guys sound? This is the best. You have to consider that there is a whole group of people that every single day is working on this, is trying to come up with, okay, so tomorrow we know he's going to go live. If he starts talking, let's say this. Let's say they're constantly trying to come up with something to say. So somebody came up with this shit and they thought it was a good idea. This is how stupid these guys are. They really think that like it makes sense that some random person would be bothered by, like, most people, if they don't like what they're saying or what somebody's doing in a video, they just click off of it. They don't keep coming back to it and watch it for hours and, hey, come on, buddy. You really need to work on your, like, it's so stupid. This is that typical, like, this is the Jews. This is how stupid they are. This is them saying if you look into Israel, it will demonize Israel. They think what they're saying, like, makes them look like victims and makes them look better, when the reality is it just makes them look stupid. It makes them look guilty. Who is going to do that? I bet you a Democrat. You bet me a Democrat what? Do you own Democrats? You want to bet a Democrat on what? Trump! And then the failsafe kicks in. Trump 2024. I'm running out of shit to say, boss. What do I do? Just get out. Just get out. You look stupid. Just get out. Let's see. The Navy ended the project in 1953 when its experiments were merged into Project MK Ultra. Well, there we go. I got my paragraph on Project Chatter. That's all I get. And then it just wraps right back around into MK Ultra. But you want to learn about the stuff, right? You want to learn details?
No.
No. You just want to go in the carefully crafted circles.
Yeah, it's much easier.
You making no sense whatsoever. You make no sense. God, people are dumb. In 1950, the Central Intelligence Agency, under the direction of General Walter Bedell Smith, initiated a series of interrogation projects involving human subjects, beginning with the launch of Project Bluebird. It's funny, Project Bluebird hasn't been lit up yet. All these other things are blue and I can click on them, but Project Bluebird's been mentioned twice and hasn't been lit up. Officially renamed Project Artichoke on August 20th, 1951. Directed and overseen by Brigadier General Paul F. Gaynor, the objective of Artichoke was to determine whether an individual could be made to involuntarily perform an act of attempted assassination. Why would you want somebody to perform an act of attempted assassination? You want them to miss? I mean, that's what happens, right? We just saw that with Trump.
Yep.
An act of attempted assassination. Morphine, mescaline, and LSD were all administered on unknowing CIA agents in an attempt to produce amnesia in the subjects. Okay, that's not what happens. I mean, what level of dose are these guys getting that the system thinks is going to create amnesia in them? Programmable amnesia.
I've never. I did a lot of acid. Never did I have amnesia. I did a lot of acid.
The most I ever did was 4 at once, and that was the magic number that would make me not like doing acid. And you'd think I'd have learned my lesson and not do it again, but
I mean, the thing is, like, had you mastered one?
oh no, I was
consistently just taken one and mastered
my situation was not
level.
a one conducive to that. I had the house that I had to keep an eye on and make sure none of the dumb girls spilled ashtrays like they always did. So like it was always a stressful situation for me.
Yeah, no, then you don't do it in that setting.
Right. Well, don't really have any other options. In addition, Project Artichoke aimed to employ certain viruses such as Dengue fever as potential incapacitating agents.
I didn't want his suicide to take away
That's some pretty crazy shit.
his memory.
You are talking in circles, contradicting yourself. Get to the point of there is any. Also, so okay, you want to do about it. Okay, so what you want to do about it? I mean, that you just went through like the whole grief scale, right? You're making no sense whatsoever. You're talking in circles, contradicting yourself. Get to the point if there is any. Okay, so what do you want to do about it? So stupid. Just so stupid. Aims in leadership. Sidney Gottlieb approved of an MK Ultra sub-project on LSD in this June 9th, 1953 letter.
We, the jury, find the defendant.
Redacted. Memorandum for the record. Subject, Project MK Ultra. Sub-Project 8. Sub-Project 8 is being set up as means to continue the present work in the general field of L.S.D. and redacted until September 11th, 1954.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's all good. It's nothing good. Oh. This project will include a continuation of a study of the biochemical, neurophysiological, sociological, and clinical psychiatric agents of LSD. Again, it's hard to read, you dumbasses, before you get all weird. And also a study of LSD antagonists and drugs related to LSD, such as LAE. What's LAE? Don't know what LAE is. A detailed proposal is attached. The principal investigators will continue to be redacted. All of redacted. The estimated budget of the project at redacted is $39,500. The redacted will serve as a cutout and cover for this project and will furnish the above funds to the redacted as a philanthropic grant for medical research, quote. A service charge of $790, 2% of the estimated budget, is to be paid to the redacted for this service. Thus, the total charges for this project will not exceed $40,290 for a period ending September 11th, 1954. Redacted, director of the hospital, are cleared through top secret and are aware of the true purpose of the project. I think it's aware. Yep, all redacted and shit. That's fucking nuts, man. That is nuts. I don't know how you don't hear this shit and think.
It's just all such bullshit.
It's crazy. The project was headed by Sidney Gottlieb, but began on the order of CIA Director Allen Dulles, who is such a superstar in the history of the United States, on April 13th, 1953. Its aim was to develop mind-controlling drugs for use against the Soviet bloc in response to alleged Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean use of mind control techniques on U.S. prisoners of war during the Korean War. So then, this is just a small piece of the history, because what the fuck were they doing? The CIA wanted to use similar methods on their own captives and was interested in manipulating foreign leaders with such techniques, devising several schemes to drug Fidel Castro. It often conducted experiments without the subject's knowledge or consent. In some cases, academic researchers were funded through grants from CIA front organizations, but were unaware that the CIA was using their work for these purposes. The project attempted to produce a perfect truth serum for interrogating suspected Soviet spies during the Cold War, and to explore other possibilities of mind control. It's crazy how much, again, the TV, the media, West Coast Hollywood, convinced the public that Soviet spies were everywhere. And yet I don't ever know of how many people were ever actually convicted and punished for being Soviet spies. Hey, what's this? What are these? Never seen these
Yours.
before. It's really weird. My wife has this weird bag of sea salt caramel things. I've never had these before. What are these?
Salt caramel.
No, but I do.
No.
I mean, I don't. How do I know if I do or don't?
Because you've had it before and you don't like it.
No, I disagree.
You're fucking lying.
No, I like it. Oh,
What you got there?
okay.
There's not a ticking time.
Sub-Project 54 was the Navy's top secret perfect concussion program, which was supposed to use subaural frequency blasts to erase memory. The program was never carried out.
Make you dream about our own private helicopter. We could put the landing pad up on the roof.
So there was this whole program project the Navy came up with, devised, all these things. But then when it came to carrying it out, they were like, oh, no, we're not going to actually test this or actually use this program on anything. Stop it. Look what you made me do. MK Ultra records were destroyed in 1973 by order of CIA Director Richard Helm. Richard Helms. Sorry.
She was murdered 6 years ago.
So it has been difficult for investigators to gain a complete understanding of more than 150 funded research sub-projects sponsored by MK Ultra and related CIA programs. So, again, how do we know they didn't just say that all those records were destroyed? I mean, the fact that they stumbled across 20,000 of them at some point should tell you something.
Are they going to find the Mars ones too?
Moon.
Or moon ones? Eventually?
I mean, this is MK Ultra. Their whole idea is like espionage and getting people to do and think in ways they wouldn't normally. So this thing where they say that, we shut the program down and all the records were destroyed. Does that even make sense? Would that even make sense? Like how much trouble did that guy? He had to get killed for that, right? You would think that would be a crime punishable by death. All the money that was put into all these programs, something just fell.
What are you dropping?
All that money that was put into it, everything, and you took it upon yourself to just destroy it? Like that just doesn't seem believable to me. And that just seems like just pointless. The project began during a period of what English journalist Robert Cornwall described as paranoia at the CIA when the U.S. had lost its nuclear monopoly and fear of communism was at its height. CIA counterintelligence chief James Jesus Ellington, or maybe it's James Jesus, believed that a mole had penetrated the organization at its highest levels. Belch.
I was in my bedroom.
I really don't think the CIA and shit like that is nearly as
Was closed.
busy as we think they are.
The front door.
Um,
And it was Kurt. Did you see him?
the agency poured millions of dollars into studies examining ways to influence and control the mind
But I heard him
influence and control the mind, and enhance its abilities to extract information from resident subjects during interrogation. Some historians assert that one goal of MK Ultra and related CIA projects was to create a Manchurian Candidate-style subject. American historian Adolph W. McCoy has claimed that the CIA attempted to focus media attention on these sorts of ridiculous programs so that the public would not look at the research's primary goal, which was effective methods of interrogation.
I was hoping that I mean, you know, a lot of prosecutors.
It's not ridiculous. It's absolutely not ridiculous to think.
What is it? It's called a wrongful death suit. What that means is that
If you know the story of Sirhan Sirhan and Bobby Kennedy, then you can't think that this is just ridiculous. The 1976 Church Committee report found that the MK Delta program, drugs were used primarily as an aid to interrogations, but MK Ultra, MK Delta materials were also used for harassment, discrediting, and disabling purposes. Other related projects. In 1964, MK Search was the name given to the continuation of the MK Ultra program.
we've done a lot of work to get this far, but it won't make a difference.
We knew it never stopped.
Right, but
Oh no, MK Ultra stopped. No, we stopped MK Ultra.
MK Search,
Well,
right
that's
there.
something different.
Look,
But no,
look at
but
it.
we stopped MK Ultra.
Look at it.
Okay, but
It's not blue. I don't get to click on MK Search and get taken to the next level.
that's a different program. This is
The MK Search program was divided into two projects dubbed MK Often and MK Chickwit. Well, you know where we're going.
I mean,
MK Often was a covert U.S. Department of Defense program developed in conjunction with the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, sometime late in the 1960s. A partner or descendant program of MK Search. Now I can click on MK Search. The goal of MK Often was to test the behavioral and toxicological effects of certain drugs on animals and humans. Testing of these drugs was, she's mad because of the animals. Testing of these drugs was done on animals, prisoners of Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia, and military personnel at Edgewood Arsenal.
oh my God.
Literally, that's it. That's all I get. I gotta click on something else. Let's click on MK Search.
Site cannot be reached.
It kicked me back to the MK Ultra program. MK Search. Look at redirected from MK Search. What?
Not a site you can go to.
MK Chickwit. Project MK Chickwit, or Chickwit, was a covert program of the U.S. Department of Defense, operated in conjunction with the CIA, a partner program to MK Search. The goal of MK Chickwit was to identify new drug developments in Europe and Asia and to obtain information and samples.
So they created the drugs that the other one used on the animals and people.
That's
and
it.
military personnel are babies that signed up for free education.
That's it, though.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you get. Like, I feel like, are they looking at me? Right. I feel like, ugh, what's going on here?
Oh, you totally nailed this. Alerts went off. Boop, boop. This person tried to access this site. Boop, boop.
Well, I mean,
Check 'em out,
in your
check 'em
entire
out.
life, have you ever heard of MK Search? I've heard of MK Ultra a gazillion times.
Right, but that's done. They ended that.
Right, and that's part of what I know. I know that they ended MK Ultra according to them.
That's it.
MK Search.
It's an active covert program. That you
Funding for MK Search commenced in 1965 and ended in 1971. There you go. It ended.
Funding ended.
No, it ended.
No, the funding did. They used that word specifically.
Yeah, I know. But it just ended.
No.
The project was a joint project between the U.S. Army Chemical Corps and the CIA's Office of Research and Development. U.S. Army Chemical Corps is the branch of the United States Army tasked with defending against and using chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. CBRN. The Chemical Warfare Service was established on June 28, 1918, combining activities that until then had been dispersed among 5 separate agencies of the United States federal government. It was made a permanent branch of the regular Army, just the regular Army, by the National Defense Act of 1920. In 1945, it was redesignated the Chemical Corps.
Lowering the price for those 50 and up. Get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. That's just $60 a month. So switch to the carrier.
That's their branch insignia.
Visit consumercellular.com today.
It's weird. It's a weird looking thing. I mean, it's sixes. It's 666. Their motto: Elementus Regimus Prolemium. We rule the battle through elements. Wars: World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Southwest Asia, Kosovo, War on Terrorism. War on Terrorism. What the fuck is the War on Terrorism? Where is terrorism?
Iraq, Afghanistan,
Maybe.
wherever we need to drop those.
Whatever we want to say, terrorists, wherever terrorists just happen to be. Discussion of the topic dates back to the American Civil War. A letter to the War Department dated April 5th, 1862 from New York City resident. From a resident of New York. He sent a letter to the War Department back in 1862. That's where this came from. Just a resident, John Doherty, proposed the use of chlorine shells to drive the Confederate Army from its position. Doherty included a detailed drawing of the shell with his letter. It is unknown how the military reacted to Doherty's proposal, but the letter was unnoticed in a pile of old official documents until modern times. So then, what's the point?
I don't know.
Another American, Forrest Shepard, also proposed a chemical weapon attack against the Confederates. Shepard's proposal involved hydrogen chloride, an act that would have likely been non-lethal but may have succeeded in driving enemy soldiers from their positions. Shepard was a well-known geologist at the time, and his proposal was in the form of a letter directly to the White House. Absolutely not reading all this.
I think you should switch gears and go to the Opera House.
Its proposal... Wait, I gotta finish this. The project was a joint project between the U.S. Army Corps and the CIA's Office of Research and Development to find new offensive use agents with the focus on incapacitating agents. Its purpose was to develop, test, and evaluate capabilities in the covert use of biological, chemical, and radioactive material systems and techniques of producing predictable human behavior and/or psychological changes in support of highly sensitive operational requirements. By March 1971, over 26,000 potential agents had been acquired for future screening. The CIA was interested in bird migration patterns for chemical and biological warfare (CBW) research. Subproject 139 designated bird disease studies at Pennsylvania State University. Okay. MK often was to deal with testing the toxicological transmissivity of and behavioral effects of drugs in animals and ultimately humans. MK Chickwit was concerned with acquiring information on new drug developments in Europe and Asia and with acquiring samples. That's exactly what the MK Chickwit page says.
Okay. Take a deep breath and close your eyes.
You can't even imagine how many animals
How do you feel knowing that this
No.
were just
No.
discarded, like just
Animals.
like mine?
I mean,
All of it.
no, I mean the people there was repercussions potentially. You had to have people that
Not the
didn't
homeless people they grabbed
right,
off
you
the
didn't
street.
right,
The
you didn't
CPS kids they took.
exactly. You didn't have to have like you had to have those kinds of people. But there were all sorts of people that knew of. With animals, who's going to tell if the animal's gone? They could literally kill 50 horses in a day and nobody would fucking know. Yeah.
Sorry to rush now. So much going on with this case.
In January 1957, the CIA started a sub-project of MK Ultra in effort to broaden their scientific research. Sub-project 68, conducted at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal under the direction of psychiatrist Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron, represents one of the most infamous and ethically controversial endeavors within the MK Ultra program. This project aimed to explore innovative techniques for manipulating and controlling human behavior, particularly through the methods of psychic driving and depatterning. Psychic driving. Psychic driving was a psychiatric procedure of the 1950s and 60s in which patients were subjected to a continuously repeated audio message on a loop tape to alter their behavior.
Oh my god.
In psychic driving, patients were often exposed to hundreds of thousands of repetitions of a single statement over the course of their treatment. They were also concurrently administered muscular paralytic drugs such as Curare to subdue them for the purposes of exposure to the looped messages. So their minds were working, but their bodies were shut down, and they were forced to listen to the same message said over and over. One thing. The procedure was pioneered by Donald Ewan Cameron and used and funded by the CIA's Project MK Ultra program in Canada.
A lot of VR these days is really good. I'm surprised.
The psychic driving procedure was a chronological precursor to Cameron's depatterning. Wow, that's a hard thing to say. Patterning. Depatterning. Right? Depatterning. The later involving massive doses of electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, combined with similarly large doses of psychedelic drugs such as LSD. What do you think is going to happen there?
In the hallway.
Like, nobody's going to get massive doses of LSD and then get electrocuted and walk away from that like, okay.
Recorded on their phone.
Especially like doing it to these 18-year-old kids that have signed up for the military that are impressionable, have not experienced stuff like that, like aren't seasoned.
Yeah, that.
You know, the guys that are signing up for the military are not your fucking total stoner burnouts typically, unless they're in trouble and that's their only way out. It's usually the goody boys, right?
The intent was to break down the subject's personality. Theoretically, psychic driving could then be used with some efficiency in establishing a new personality. In Cameron's patterning, the ECT would often continue to be administered despite the manifestation of convulsive fits. Are you hearing this? You're not listening.
That's because I'm a moron.
Okay, listen to this. In Cameron's depatterning, the ECT would also would often continue to be administered despite the manifestation of convulsive fits,
Oh God,
which were
stop.
consensually considered to be contradictions to normal and safe ECT procedure. Such biologically and psychologically devastating procedures, adapted internationally by the psychiatric establishment, were largely abolished by the time the CIA was brought before the Senate hearing in 1977 for its involvement and funding of Cameron's experimental activities as part of the MK Ultra program. The topic of Cameron's psychic driving is dealt with in some detail in the docudrama The Sleep Room, blah, 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 blah. Similar techniques are alleged to have been used in the kidnapping and death of CIA operative William Francis Buckley by Aziz al-Aboob, a medical doctor from Beirut who was seen as epitomizing medical torture. Aziz al-Aboob, also known as Ibrahim al-Nadar, was known for using his medical training to refine torture techniques. His techniques were shown to be closely connected to the CIA-developed torture techniques. As with the CIA, he used drugs to make it easier to handle those he tortured, carefully determined how long to keep a prisoner hooded, and when to isolate them, and other techniques seen as medical torture.
Yeah, that is torture.
That's just psychic driving. We're going back. So that's psychic driving. This is I'm not
They can pretty it up all they want. It's still torture.
but like this isn't like those darn Arabs. This isn't some like fictional, Star Trek episode or some shit. This is the United States government.
I have this virus that attacks all my red blood cells and, slowly eats all of the healthy cells in my body and is going to kill me. Oh, you mean you have cancer? No. No, I just have this virus that attacks all my red blood cells. No, it's cancer.
Oh no, damn.
You can't pretty it up. It's torture.
Oh yeah.
It's not psychic driving. Fuck you.
Well, no. It is psychic driving. It's torture, but it's torture used in a specific method to psychic drive these behaviors. So yes, it's torture, but it's specifically this torture used in this matter.
Right. It is just a virus that's attacking your body.
Psychic driving involved subjecting patients to continuous playback of recorded messages, often with themes of self-improvement or identity reinforcement, while they were under the influence of powerful psychoactive substances such as LSD or barbiturates. Experiments on Americans. CIA documents suggest that they investigated chemical, biological, and radiological methods of mind control as part of MK Ultra. They spent an estimated $10 million or more, roughly $87.5 million adjusted for inflation. So 10 million back then is like 87 million today. During a hearing or whenever this was fucking last updated, who knows? During a hearing by the Senate Health Subcommittee, a testimony by the deputy director of the CIA stated that over 30 institutions and universities were involved in the experimentation program of testing drugs on unknown citizens, quote, at all social levels, high and low, Native Americans and foreigners. Several of these tests involved the issuing of LSD to unaware subjects in social situations. That's fucking insane. I can't imagine being like tripping on acid, not knowing I was going to, not wanting to, not planning on it. Not wanting to. Suddenly I'm starting to trip out, not knowing I've been dosed. That would freak you the fuck out. And the thing is, it would probably be overwhelming because you wouldn't know, like, did they dose me with 1 hit, 2 hits, 10 hits? Like, is this just the beginning? Is this going to get really worse? Like, what's about to happen to
When they
me?
say massive doses, I wonder how many hits that actually equals.
Oh, it's tons. I remember reading it somewhere, and it's something
Is it like
stupid,
10
and it's super
times, or-
pure too.
Right, it's lab grade.
Right.
No
Let's see. Maybe it'll
stuffing.
come up.
No strychnine.
Right. No gut rot. It's probably amazing in small doses.
Yeah. Well,
During-
I've gotten some pharmaceutical grade. It was liquid, and yeah, it's awesome.
The army was subject to testing of LSD, which occurred in 3 phases. The first phase included over 1,000 American soldiers who willingly volunteered for testing of chemical warfare experiments. Phase 2 had 96 volunteers who were induced with LSD in evaluation of the possibility of intelligence uses of the drug. The third phase included projects Third Chance and Derby Hat, which conducted experiments on 16 unwitting non-volunteer subjects that after receiving LSD were interrogated as part of an operation as part of Operation Field Tests. So you're given again what, like, these scientists who don't do it, they're deciding how much your dose is. So, like, what we consider a dose, it's probably a lot more. So they're giving you, you're at like a bar or something like that. You're having a drink. You go to the bathroom and they slip it in your drink, or they give it to you whatever. And then as you leave and you start to like, what the hell is going on? Cops come pick you up like, we need to interrogate you, sir. Yeah, that's going to be a fucking good time.
Oh my goodness, that would be wild.
After retiring in 1972, Gottlieb dismissed his entire effort for the CIA's MK-Ultra program as useless. Files discovered in 1977 containing 700 pages of new information showed that experiments had continued until Gottlieb ordered the program halted on July 10, 1972. Or those projects halted. Those experiments continued and halted. That probably was maybe several more going on. L S D D D D D D D. That was cool when you were like, whoa, I was tripping out. Because I didn't even say all that.
I
It
thought
just
maybe you slipped me some LSD.
right. I didn't even say it. That was just how you heard it. And you're so fucked up, I heard it too. Somebody on acid would absolutely believe that shit. You could totally fuck with somebody on acid. Dude, that's crazy. You heard that too? In 1938, LSD was created by Albert Hoffman. I just want to see something. I just want to see something. What do you think? You think he's like Italian?
For sure.
For sure.
Hoffman, but there's no H in LSD.
He was a Swiss chemist. Born January 11th, 1906, died April 29th, 2008. Wow, he was 102 years old. Amazing how many of these
It's because he dosed a lot.
old famous, like these old people who are part of their situation, they live to be so old. Swiss chemist known for being the first to synthesize, ingest, and learn of the psychedelic effects of lysergic acid dimethylide, LSD. What's crazy again is,
Who did he test that on first?
how until he got it right. How can anybody say that acid is bad for you if the guy that invented it and probably did it more than a lot of people did, even by accident, spilling the shit on his hands or some shit? How do you say it's bad for you? He lived to be 102 years old. Hoffman's team also isolated, named, and synthesized the principal psychedelic mushroom compounds psilocybin and psilocin. Psilocin. He authored more than 100 scientific. Again, wait. Angela made a great point, and you got to think about it. How do you accidentally into LSD? I mean, it's not like
Obviously testing drugs for MK Ultra.
Well, no, but just think about like where do you even so you go, okay, I want to make a something that makes you trip out like this. So let me get my supply of this, and let me put this here. Okay, so now I'm gonna mix that with. Here's some lemon juice.
Okay, so
Let me try that. Okay, did lemon juice work? No. Okay. Now here, let me try this with some ketchup. Did ketchup work? No. And like, how do you decide to go with ingredient number 2, and then ingredient number 3, and then however many ingredients it is to get to the point where you get this perfect recipe?
you're looking at somebody that went through that whole learning process with oils. Learning what oils do what and what are good to mix with what. Okay, this
Yeah,
list-
but
so
you
start
have
with-
you have a foundation. You still have a foundation. You still have an internet at your hands to be able to look stuff up.
Okay, but if you know that these particular plants are known to have hallucinogenic properties based on things that we've seen in nature or tested ourselves. Okay, so out of this group, what can we mix? Like this one seems to make people's fingers tingle. This one seems to affect their vision
No doubt,
more than others.
But then we're talking about
So it's like it's
we're talking about in the 30s,
apothecary.
in the 40s, that the technology that was apparently available to these people allowed them to isolate individual compounds in plants and then figure those out and then be like, okay, now that I've figured out what this compound is, I can then synthesize it by what? How do you synthesize a compound out of a nothing?
Okay, so you look at what the molecular structure is,
Right.
what
Now
it's
we're talking
comprised
about
of,
molecular
and you get
structures
into
and all this
very
that we knew in the 30s.
chemistry.
We were real good at that stuff in the 30s. And like you say, like, okay, so how many different batches had to be made to get it just right? And how do you test that? How many different people have to be tested and get a similar reaction before you, like you say, body chemistry? Well, just because I reacted negatively to this version of it doesn't mean she will.
Right. Well, that's why they say 2 out of 100 people will experience this. Okay, well, so you tested hundreds of people then.
I mean, it's the same thing as any of it. How did they come up with crack? How did they come up with meth?
Right.
Crack, I'm supposed to believe that in the 80s, that Nuck and Bobo in the hood just had so much cocaine lying around that they also happen to be amateur fucking chemists with their ordered from a comic book chemistry set, that they figured out, like, crack isn't easy. Crack isn't accidental. Crack isn't like you accidentally knocked something over into something else and then forgot about it, and an egg fell in a pickling jar, or fell in some pickle juice, and then you found it a while later and oh my god, I wonder what this is going to be like. You crack and oh my god, hey, this is kind of good. It's not like that. Crack is a recipe. It's like baking a cake that if you don't get it right, it's not going to work nearly as well, and it could actually be extremely dangerous. So how did, in the mid 80s, all of these gangsters in the hood, like in the same week, all just figure out the recipe for crack? This is high level chemistry, if you ask me. And yet somehow they just figured it out.
And I don't know what the process to get from coke to crack is, so I have no idea. Even if somebody's brother was, you know, a chemistry student, I don't know what the process is.
Right, no doubt.
When they died,
I don't know.
It wasn't a simple, oh, well, if we heat, I wonder what happens if we heat it up. Can we
Hang
make
on
it
a
more
second.
potent?
Pedophiles kill yourself.